Hey folks, good to see you again. How are you doing? Hope things are rolling smoothly at your end. Okay, time for another tube on Baba's Secret Channel. Uh, this one will be another letter to a friend. And this time I'm sending a video letter to my friend Brad Warner. Brad is an American Zen teacher, Soto Zen teacher, and author. Uh, Probably his most famous book is Hardcore Zen, um, which is probably already 20 years old or something like this. So you might be familiar with his books. So I'm gonna put a couple of Brad's videos that have been taken from his newest YouTube today, titled "Stages of Enlightenment." So take a look at these, and I will give my commentary afterwards. Check it out.
My answer to all this about stages of enlightenment in seeking Kensho, I kind of gave it in the last video, but I'm gonna try to give it. Maybe I can answer it better this time. I don't know. But the idea of stages of enlightenment bugs me because who decides what is a stage of enlightenment? And I ask this from the point of view of a transmitted Zen teacher. Sorry, folks, I know that bugs some people, the fact that I got Dharma transmission, but I did. And I am now in that hot seat where I am the guy in front of the group. For years I was the guy who was just sitting over there on one of the cushions and sometimes asking stupid questions to the teacher and all that, like, most of us. And then I got promoted to be the guy in the hot seat. And I think, well, how do I know what stage of enlightenment you're in? I can't see into your head or wherever it is and decide whether you are in a stream enterer or a once returner or a none returner, or if you've reached, I don't know, what did that guy say, the 7 ranks of whatever. Jeez, it's hard to remember all this stuff. I can't. Anyway, I can't get my phone to do what I want it to do. But whatever he said about the 7 stages of dhyana and the 5 ranks of Chaodong and the 54 states in the Avatamsaka Sutra. I don't know any of that. And maybe it's because I'm one of those bad teachers. But I kind of don't think so, given some of my own experiences around this, and given the fact that I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who teaches that there is no point and that there is no benefit in seeking enlightenment or seeking one of these Kensho experiences or wanting to have one of these experiences. I'm not alone at all in that. Kodo Sawaki was very famous for saying, as I've repeated uncountable times, Zazen is good for nothing. And trying to dissuade people from using their Zazen to seek something outside of Zazen. And Dogen, despite what this guy in my comments section says, Dogen is all abundantly clear. And I know there's people in these Soto Rinzai hybrid schools who try to interpret Dogen in a different way, and I've read some of that. One of them appears famously in John Daido Lori's introduction to the Dogen's extensive record. If you go look for the book Dogen's extensive, not expensive, although it is extensive record, there is an essay at the beginning of that by John Daido Lori, the late great John Daido Lori, in which he tries to reinterpret Dogen as saying there are ranks of enlightenment and that we should seek a Kensho or an opening experience, blah, blah, blah. And I read that and I was going, blow it out your butt, John Daido Lori. Yeah, if that's what you're doing, I don't want to know about it. Because, as I started to say, I'm on this hot seat where I'm supposed to be able to decide, I guess, people would think, who has reached nirvana. There's another person in the comments saying, isn't the point of Zen practice to reach nirvana, and are we wasting our time? And I said, you're wasting your time. If you're seeking this enlightenment which is outside of practice. And someone else, my teacher Nishijima Roshi, once said I don't know if I was the one to ask this question. I said something about how can we know if we're enlightened, and I'm going to attribute it to me. Maybe somebody else said it. And his answer is the important part. And his answer was, you can't realize your own enlightenment. You can't notice your own enlightenment, I think is how he actually put it. So these kind of things, these kind of ideas of there being stages, which you could say like, look, I'm stage 1 and I'm stage 2. I'm actually... But anyway, so yeah, in the stages of cancer, you can actually look at the stages and decide what it is objectively. When it comes to enlightenment, I don't see how you can. The whole idea of stages of enlightenment and stuff just it doesn't make any sense to me, because it's trying to determine something that can't be determined. It's like me trying to determine 2 other people had sex and me trying to determine whether it was good for them or not. I'm just like, I don't know, and I can see some kind of superficial evidence of it. And, maybe one day a student will come up to me who has had an experience and I will go, ooh, maybe that will impress me as enlightenment. But for now, as far as I can see, it's just a lot of guesswork. And I don't know. If you want to put your faith in somebody who you think is an expert to tell you whether you're enlightened or not, go right ahead. But neither of my teachers would ever do such a thing, because I think such a thing is really damaging. To me, it sounds like a way of trying to control your students by holding out this nebulous something, which nobody knows exactly what it is, of enlightenment as a kind of reward that they'll eventually get, and they kind of have to keep coming to me, the teacher, to try to see. And it just...
I'm trying to get this video recorded, but I have this little fella here who's starred in the previous episode before, so she's making this impossible, but I'll try anyway. Okay, so there you heard Brad's take on this matter, and I'll address some of the key points that he brought up. So there's quite a bit there, and what he says on the video, again, the name of his original YouTube is called Stages of Enlightenment, published today, 3rd of June 2026. So you can check it out yourself, check his full video. But what he says is, the same things are repeated by other Soto Zen teachers across the board. And like he says himself in the video that, his 2 teachers, Tim McCarthy, his American teacher, and then Nishijima Roshi, who was his main teacher. And then he also mentions Kodo Sawaki, who is this modern legend of Soto Zen, who put a lot of emphasis on shikantaza, or just sitting. So, you hear these same phrases a lot from modern Soto Zen teachers. So, first of all, in the first clip that I pasted, he speaks about seeking of enlightenment. Seeking of enlightenment. I don't think there is any, even when discussing technically very different method or lineage of teaching, such as tantric methods, Tibetan tantric methods, or modern tantric method like open heart that I teach. I don't think there is any Buddhist meditation method where you are taught to seek enlightenment or to seek an awakening or kensho. By the way, I'll use in Zen, in the world of Zen Buddhism, they use the Japanese term kensho a lot, which means seeing true nature. But I translate it in my work and on these videos as awakening. So awakening experiences. But I think I have never seen a Buddhist teacher who told you to seek enlightenment. So there is a bit of confusion here. What Brad is expressing that, of course, he's rejecting the view of seeking enlightenment or seeking any type of experience, including awakening experience. But that's kind of besides the point. Nobody teaches Buddha Dharma like that. However, and here comes the big difference between modern Soto Zen and, other types of methods of Buddha Dharma, that modern Soto Zen has this, I would say, overemphasis, maybe you could say emphasis of just sitting. So, so lots of emphasis on just sitting, and like he mentioned, Kodo Sawaki, my understanding is that during the last 150 or so years, the reason why I speak about ancient Zen and ancient Soto Zen and modern Soto Zen is because they are different things. And so modern Soto Zen that Brad also, his view is based on, emphasizes this just sitting. And they have a very specific interpretation of what practice is, and they support it. It's kind of ironic that Brad, he criticizes John Daido Loori Roshi in his clip that you just saw, when they themselves also interpret Zen Master Dogen's writings the way they do. And this is something that can be discussed about and analyzed about. But the point that I'm trying to make that no Buddhist Dharma teacher tells the student to seek enlightenment. Like, you don't actually practice that way, that you would be sitting there or chanting or doing bows or prostrations or doing whatever type of practice as seeking, trying to get somewhere. So this would be like a fundamental fault in the instructions. Having said that, what I have said many times in my YouTubes already, this is episode 17, and I have already mentioned it many times, contrary to the, popular view of this, there are practices that generate kensho. There are definite, understandable practices that do directly generate kensho. If somebody is interested, well, first of all, you can watch these YouTubes that I've made the past couple of months, but you can also scroll down my revitalized Zen videos on this channel, where I speak more about this in the context of Zen. But just to sum it up, like I said in that Chan Master Sheng Yen video that I made a few weeks ago, he was saying that there are no practices that generate awakening. And this is a false view. This is not universally correct. So there actually are practices that do generate awakening, these openings into Buddha mind, nature of mind, and doing those practices is not seeking or going after. So just like any practice that there are in the whole wide world, how you practice is that you focus on doing the exercise how it's been instructed to you. And this point kind of Brad seems to, and modern Soto Zen teachers seem to miss this point that, well, perhaps, probably, maybe, it's because all they have done all their lives in their training is to just sit. So they, I could say from, I have friends who practice modern Soto. I have friends who are teachers in modern Soto, and they don't, some of them never practiced other practices than just sitting. So they simply have a very, very narrow technical understandings of different meditation techniques, but also the underlying principles, which means the subtle bodies and Buddha nature itself. And you can kind of see that lack of what is it like, lack of broader understanding, because modern Soto teachers, they just keep repeating the same phrases over and over again, unable to explain things in new way, with new terminology, in new fresh expression. So yeah, there is no such teacher who tells you to seek enlightenment or go after, aim at some awakening, because that's that obviously doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Another thing that I want to mention is that that I spoke of on Revitalized Zen videos, and what I think is misunderstanding or misinterpretation in modern Zen about Zen Master Dogen's writing. I didn't take my Shobo Genzo from the shelf and look up where the passages where he says that, but maybe it's better that I don't quote him or misquote him. But Brad's video made me think of this. So, I have joined many, I don't know how many, at least 20, 30 retreats in Zen Buddhism, at least 20, 30, with number of different Zen teachers and Zen masters, both in the West and Japan. And especially in those modern Soto Zen circles, in that style of practice where there is no dynamicity, absolutely no dynamicity. So it's completely different than Rinzai Zen that I have mostly practiced. But there is one, well, it's questionable if this aspect is any better in Rinzai, but because Rinzai is more dynamic, it does help with the point that I'm want to include here, which is confusing subtle layers of the subconscious mind to Buddha mind or Buddha nature. This is very common. Like, if you know the difference between subtle layers of, it's called substrate consciousness, alaya vijnana in traditional Buddhist literature. If you know these subtle layers, these subtle layers of fog, and then you know how recognition of Buddha nature, Buddha mind feels like, which is what just sitting is supposed to be, then it's very easy for you to practice correctly. But in my days in Zen, on Zen retreats, with many different teachers and masters, I didn't hear once it being explained how subtle layers of substrate consciousness and Buddha mind are actually two different things. And if we look at this from the perspective of kind of from the absolute perspective that Soto Zen, all Zen tries to do, from that perspective, there is no confusion, no delusion, and also no whatever subtle layers that could somehow confuse or cover this experience. But this is the absolute view. So we are practicing as samsaric beings, deluded beings, and it is simply a fact that these subtle layers have a big role. And the reason how you can see it, how I prove my point, is that you can take any Soto Zen retreat or practice group these days, walk into their session, join their session, and wait when the bell rings, practice session begins, and just count how long it takes for people to start falling asleep, or there is this thick, subtle layer of drowsiness, fogginess there. And then the tragical part is that people might practice Dogen's just sitting like that, shikantaza, not seeking enlightenment like that for decades, wasting their time. You see, and here comes very, very important point that let's put all these debates where different schools and philosophies bump heads against each other. Let's put all of those historical debates aside, and let's think about this. So the basic teaching in Buddhism, including in Zen Buddhism, is that we have Buddha nature. We have Buddha nature. Buddha nature is somewhere here. The enlightened being is somewhere inside us. And why are we strangers to it? Why do we need to engage, take up any sort of practice, including shikantaza, just sitting practice, to reveal it? Why? Because of the so-called samsara. Samsara is a Buddhist technical term which means commonly translated as deluded existence and cyclical existence, something that repeats itself. So we have this delusion, false belief, false understanding about ourselves, and that's why we take up some form of practice. But if we are talking about practice, something like shikantaza, just sitting, you do need to have proper instructions and proper understanding what the practice is. Because if you just sit there with your body, with your legs crossed, spine straight, and you just sit there and you have absolutely no understanding, no knowledge, no standards of any type regarding your internal state. This has nothing to do with just sitting. It has nothing to do with correct practice, has nothing to do with Zen Master Dogen's teachings or view. So this is extremely common that people, mistake these subtle veils of samsaric mind as Buddha nature, and then they believe that they are correctly practicing according to Dogen's view. But it's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. Mm, and that exactly something that Brad reminded me of is that he was speaking about going after special experiences, whether awakening, enlightenment, or so on. And just sitting, like a term or English rendition that I've liked to use for just sitting is what did I call it? Like Buddha nature sitting. So sitting, recognizing Buddha nature, Buddha mind. And if you sit like that, those subtle layers won't be there. You will have thoughts, you will have emotions, you will have normal functioning of the mind. If you get sleepy, those subtle layers will also be there, but your recognition of the totality of totality, including the functioning of your mind or psyche, are seamlessly together, not together, they are not separate from that recognition of Buddha nature. So this is a very important point, but you know, in their own way, Zen Buddhists try to cultivate like that. But the reality, if you go to Zen groups and take a look how people actually sit there, you know, they might have been sitting 20, 30, 40 years, and it's not like that. It's not like that. But so recognition of Buddha nature, which might if we recognize Buddha nature a lot daily in our practice, then these awakening experiences, kenshos, will naturally happen. They will simply keep coming one after the other. In Open Heart, we have specific techniques for this. And we are simply using the techniques as tools and repeating that recognition of our basic nature, and in this way recognizing who we actually are, recognizing ourselves as enlightened beings, wakeful beings, aware beings, selfless beings. Another thing that Brad spoke about is he spoke about verification, being able to verify awakening or enlightenment kensho, and he literally said that I can't see into your mind, and that it would be pointless trying to determine what can't be determined. And of course, this is from Brad's personal Hardcore Zen YouTube channel, and everybody knows that he's a teacher of this modern Soto Zen. But the reason why I felt like making this video, making a commentary and making this friendly letter to Brad is because lots of people listen to him. And what he's saying is not universally true. And it's not universally true even within the Zen world. So just because he himself hasn't been trained in verification of awakening experiences, kenshos, doesn't mean that such training wouldn't exist elsewhere, doesn't mean that other teachers wouldn't be able to do this. So I just wanted to say that because, people look up to people like Brad, and they build their own beliefs based on what famous teachers say. But here again, people should be really careful. Brad, my friend, you should be really careful because what you say, you should offer other perspective, which I'm sure that you know of because you have been a Zen practitioner for what, 30, 40 years. So you must know that in Rinzai Zen, for example, people who are have been training long and are kind of on the, how to say, on their way of becoming Zen teachers, they are taught how to see from other person if they have had an awakening or not. And here of course we come back to what I have spoken in the previous videos about. I made two parts of how to measure awakening, and I also spoke about the process after the first awakening experience. So we have plenty of information about this in Open Heart, including the books that are available on our website. So anybody who's interested can check them out. But yeah, it is perfectly possible to determine whether a person is practicing correctly, first of all, and two, whether the person, the practitioner, the student has had an opening, awakening, Kensho experience or not. This is something that in our lineage, it's absolutely basic skill, basic understanding for teachers. Finally, he says that he says that they don't do this in their lineage. His teachers have the view that they have, but he also I don't understand why when he speaks about this, why he has this kind of strange, he kind of expresses it in a very strange way that if the teacher, if the system, first of all, if the method is such that there is discussion about awakening and kenshos, it's kind of in the open in that way, and then that the teacher checks and verifies or falsifies those awakenings, that this would somehow be trying to control the student. I never understood why there is this, like, it kind of sounds like there is some kind of manipulative intention or some kind of weird, strange motivation being played by the teacher. And I never understood, like, is that the option? Is that the only option? Are those two the only options? Like, you don't verify and you don't talk about this stuff, or if you do, there is something dodgy and the teacher is trying to control the student or trying to somehow manipulate or limit her or his experience or rights or whatever. It just sounds so silly, you know. It simply sounds silly, dumb, really. What is that? So when we are talking about, Brad also said that, he's on the hot seat nowadays, that he's a teacher in the lineage, and that people might not like it. But we gotta understand that when somebody is a teacher in a Buddhist lineage, it can mean very, very different things. Like years ago, I actually joined wait a second, it was a Dharma transmission ceremony in Japan with Brad's Dharma brother, and Brad's Dharma brother was giving Dharma transmission to a European person. And this student had been practicing for 5 years. And, kudos to him. Brilliant that this happens. But the point that I'm trying to make that, becoming a Dharma transmitted modern Soto Zen teacher is not actually that difficult. And, compared to, for example, becoming a teacher in a tantric Buddhist system, it's a completely different type of process, or at least it should be. So somehow when he speaks of that dependency, the student being dependent on the teacher, it sounds very weird. And I don't know in Brad's case if he actually has personal students. I remember many years ago, I never met Brad personally, but we have mutual friends, Finnish friends and friends from other countries. And I remember that hearing about his view that he kind of, even though he here says that he's on the hot seat, I don't know if he has personal students, like that he is a teacher for that person, like, and that person has asked Brad to become her or his teacher. And then there is this continued correspondence and communication between them, and doing many Zen retreats together. I don't know if he has this kind of connection with his students, but I think that he had a connection like that with his teacher, Nishijima Roshi. But it kind of just sounds weird that when he says that, in this, when awakenings are discussed and verified or falsified, that there might be this aspect of the teacher trying to control the student and student becoming dependent on teacher. Come on, why are we really doing this? So it's a learning process. Practice of Dharma is a learning process where the teacher is supposed to have solid ethics and solid skill set, tools, skills, whatnot, that she or he uses to guide, to teach the student. Now that I just said it, I was reminded by, I've been involved in these discussions with senior Zen practitioners and teachers, and one of the criticism, not only mine but that of others also, criticism towards modern Soto Zen is that this one-on-one connection, relationship between teachers and students is kind of becoming loose, somehow disconnected, perhaps you could say. And it kind of gives me a sense a little bit like that. But anybody who has a really good Dharma teacher, this is not some kind of game you play. The teacher takes it really seriously and also takes responsibility of guiding the student in the best of her or his ability. So it is not something you play with. And of course, there are, Buddhist cults, there are all kinds of scandals and abuse, but I'm not talking about that. I'm here talking about, teachers who actually engage and actually, in the best of their ability, try to help the student in their practice and to enlightenment, to Buddhahood in this life. And there's another thing that Brad says. He said that this nebulous something that nobody knows exactly what it is of an enlightenment. These kind of phrases, they reveal that the how do you say, the the lines haven't really connected. The dots haven't connected. That's how you say it in English. This nebulous something that nobody knows exactly what it is of an enlightenment. So, Brad, my friend, you should know by now that this just sitting is enlightenment. This just sitting is Kensho. This just sitting, Shikantaza, is recognition of Buddha nature. So it is not some random nebulous thing that nobody knows about exactly. You know, it is not some random nebulous vague thing, this Buddha nature of ours. It is not. And, well, maybe I've said enough about substrate consciousness and Buddha mind and recognition and Kensho and verification and so on. But my view and my experience is completely different than Brad's. And like I already said, I just wanted to make this commentary and offer an alternative view so that, Brad, my friend, you're not leading too many people to astray. I hope you can, and I'm sure you can, take it with humor. You know, even though I've said number of critical points here, you probably can feel the place that it's coming from. So I think this is enough for this video. Thank you for watching, everybody. And thank you, Brad, for the work you do. Of my behalf, I can say that let's establish standards in Dharma for the liberation and happiness of all beings. Because enlightenment is real and it can be discussed openly, with clarity, with common sense. It is not some nebulous, random, mystical rubbish, but it's real. Our true nature, our Buddha nature is real. And I think this is something that all Zen masters, including Zen Master Dogen, can agree with. So thank you, everybody. Sorry that this video became this long. I tried to make it just 20 minutes, but couldn't. Please press like and subscribe and share my videos in social media if you feel like this is beneficial for you. So let's spread the message together. I can't do this alone. Thank you very much and many blessings. See you in the next one. Maybe I will I'm traveling to Birmingham, UK this weekend to teach there, and after that to Helsinki, Finland. So maybe I'll do a little travel vlog again, like I did before from Switzerland. Okay, thank you. See you in the next one. Bye.